Ernest Holmes gives a whole commentary on that prayer in his book, This Thing Called Life, and the depth and the power that that prayer holds. He talks about that the meaning of that beautiful prayer is there is one Father, Mother God. There's one Father, one power that is all life. And it's part of all of us and everything. And it's transcendent and immanent. It's indwelling in all of us. That power that we heard that gave us the God bumps, that's in us. And this kingdom of God is love and it's joy. That is the nature of this power and this life we live. And that God does not condemn, but God loves, and God gives us everything we need. We live in an abundant world where all of our needs can be met. But he also mentions in this beautiful prayer that life is reciprocal. Give us our bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. We've got to do our part. It's all there. It's all good. It's all love. It's all abundance. But we have to do our part. So forgiveness that we're talking about today, we have to do our part in this. And in this reciprocal universe, there's, of course, the law of cause and effect. What we put out there, we get back. And there's a law of circulation, that we have to keep things moving and going, that life is circular and spirals upward, evolutionary. Yet there's also another law that we don't talk about as much, and that's the law of divine compensation. And when we talk about forgiveness, it's important because usually we lack forgiveness in areas where someone's hurt us or done us wrong or taken something from us, or life has hurt us, or we've hurt ourselves, or something's been taken from us that blocks our good. But the truth is, our good is never blocked. This law of divine compensation means that if something is rightly and truly ours, the universe is there to always give it to us when we are open and available to it. Does that make sense? God can only do for us what it can do through us. So if we hold this thing called lack of forgiveness that hardens our heart and keeps us stuck, we're not going to be receiving the good that is really divinely ours. I think the greatest teacher that I know that taught about forgiveness and gave us this amazing legacy of love and forgiveness is Nelson Mandela. He hangs on our wall as one of the great heroes of life because of his ability to forgive. He was asked when he was after being imprisoned for 27 years, during the time of apartheid in South Africa, when he was imprisoned, when he was leaving after all those years, he was asked, well, didn't you just feel so much hatred because you'd been imprisoned for all that time? And he said, yes, I had amazing resentment and anger after being imprisoned for all those years, after being abused, after so much of my life taken away. But when I was walking what he calls the long walk of freedom, he said, I knew, my car was waiting out there, but I knew when I walked through that gate out of the prison that if I didn't leave my resentment and anger and hatred there, that they'd still have me. I needed to forgive in order to be free. The same is true for all of us. You know, I heard forgiveness defined as internalized conflict. And I thought that was, or unforgiveness as internalized conflict. And I thought that was a good description of that because, oh gosh, can you remember times, and I don't know how long ago, I can certainly remember a time when I had someone in my family do something, I just was unbelievable, just unbelievable. You know how that goes. And so I started telling a story. And then I heard myself for a long time telling the same story. I was boring myself, but I couldn't stop it. And I realized that story had a hold on me. You see, when we tell our stories over and over again, we don't get rid of them. We empower them. We rehearse them. We make them way bigger. We enlarge those stories. And we think they're the truth. And they're bigger than when they started. We give them power. But I can remember when I was so tired of listening to that story, and I was in my classes and doing my work, that I started to pray for the good of that person. Forgiveness is not for the weak, believe me. It takes a lot of work to do that. Somebody who you think has wronged you, to pray for their happiness, their joy, their success. And you pray and pray and pray until you feel free. Because forgiveness is freedom, as Nelson Mandela taught. Freedom. And when you feel that freedom, either that person changes or you don't care. That's what happens. It doesn't matter. We aren't praying that somebody changes. We want to be free. Because when we have that resentment and that anger, it becomes this emotional link to that situation or person that is stronger than steel. And that's what I found when I had that story in my life. Because I couldn't break it until I got stronger than that steel and could use prayer and spirituality. I had to seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. Put God first. Because, you know, in the Lord's Prayer, God doesn't condemn anyone. We have been given so much. Would you agree with me? So much good is here and available to us. We misuse it, right? We do naughty things. We say not so nice things sometimes. But we're always forgiven. We need to do the same thing. We need to tell stories how forgiveness has healed us, either forgiveness towards us or forgiveness we have given. I think my greatest forgiveness happened very quickly. But when we lost our daughter, I could not imagine anyone holding a pain like that in their heart because they made a mistake. I wouldn't want that. I couldn't be part of that. Now, I don't know if people forgive themselves, but I didn't want to be part of that. And the freedom that came from being able to release any attachment to that anger. Now, I know I was mad at God for a while, and I remember sitting with my minister, talking to her and just saying, I can't forgive God. I just can't. How could this happen? And I just needed to get that out, and then I put it in perspective and realized this wasn't wasn't God's doing. This is just something that happened. But forgiveness is something that isn't just a one-time act. It's something we need to do repeatedly. Ernest Holmes gives us the wonderful command to love everybody. He said, there is good in everyone. We have to make the decision. We have to refuse to focus on the negative aspects because we all hold both sides. And when we can learn to love everybody, we will be free. And that's the lesson we get. We get to be free if forgiveness becomes a way of life. And I bet this time of year, especially, we all have somebody to forgive, right? Or something. Not necessarily someone, but something we'd like to forgive, even in the littlest form. And it needs to become a way of life. But we have to make a choice to forgive completely. I heard this very funny quote. Probably hit home a little too much, but it was very funny. But I'll share with you. I probably shouldn't have shared that part, but I'll share this. It comes from an old actress, Marlene Dietrich, and she said, you know, we can't forgive our husband and then reheat his sins for breakfast. That goes both ways, but anyway. We need to learn to forgive completely, so it's a daily practice. We also have that thing where, oh, well, sure, we'll forgive and forget. but we don't want the person that we forgive to forget that we forgave. Right? You know, got one on you. No, that's not what forgiveness is all about. You know, my two buddies, Jesus and Rumi, talk a lot about forgiveness. Rumi says, and I want you to feel this, because a lack of forgiveness hardens our heart. And that's why when we talk about the law of circulation, whatever good, abundance you want, if it's an abundance of love, joy, money, friendships, opportunities, whatever it is, if our heart is hardened, we've closed the door. The law of circulation stagnates right here. I want you to remember that. So here's what Rumi says. He says, we are here to be a forgiveness door. Through which freedom comes. I weep. I weep when I pray for the door not to be shut. He got it, how hard it is to keep that forgiveness door open. It's not an easy task. Martin Luther King said, forgiveness is not an act you do, it's an attitude that we carry in life. We have to build that muscle in us that we can let go and let God. We have to put God first. We have to be willing to do that. And there's spiritual practices we can do that will help us along the way. As I mentioned, start telling stories of how forgiveness has benefited your life. Start sharing with people. Gosh, it felt so good to let that go. I feel free. I'm not carrying that burden, that old, that emotional baggage. And so often, a lack of forgiveness is what it just eats away at us. That's why we keep repeating it, and when we let it go, we get healthier and happier. It's not only good for us in our physical health, our mental health, and emotional health. We can let go of it. But also, when there's something that gets triggered, and I guarantee you there's, at least for me, sorry, I'm so sorry, Art. These are so little, I didn't even think they'd clang. Where was I? Somewhere very important, I know. Forgiveness, yes, it was about forgiveness. I can't remember where I was, though. I see the distraction. I was on a flow here, and it just flew out the door. Let me think. Let me see what else I could talk about here. That would be interesting. I'm not sure. Forgiveness is a greater understanding that it's not really, when we feel we're hurt, it's really not about us. When you really understand that hurt people hurt people. If someone is hurting you, it's of an unresolved issue in them. And then we get hurt because of an unresolved issue in us. So, the spiritual practice, that's where I was, that I wanted to talk about, is when you feel a jab of being hurt, to ask, where's my unresolved issue? What needs to be resolved here? What do I need to do? Because we're going to pray for the people that have hurt us, and we're going to do that today. But what's unresolved here? What needs to be fixed in me? Because the first person we need to forgive is ourselves. We do unto others, not as we would have them do unto us. We do unto others as we do unto ourselves. We treat other people the way we treat ourselves. If we find we're not being loving to someone, it's because we're not loving ourselves. If we're not being forgiving to someone, it's because we're not forgiving ourselves. We all have work to do. That's what. Are you breathing? Yes. Then we still have work to do. So, this emotional link that happens when we, don't forgive. How many of you would love to get rid of that? Me too. I'm working on it. So let's let it go, okay? Yeah. Can you just say, I'll let it go? I'll let it go. It begins with willingness. We just have to be willing to let it go. Some of us get so used to carrying it, we don't even know what it will feel like. Try it. Let it go. Be free from anything that's keeping you stuck in the past. Because a lack of forgiveness keeps you stuck in the past, so we can't be visioning and working forward in all the good that wants to come. How boring is that? Do you want to keep that broken record back here going on and on, or do you want to create something new? All of us, we can have more love, more light, more goodness. We can be creating all of that. We can be doing more creative expressions out in the world or just inside ourselves that we vibrationally and energetically share. Marianne Williamson said, forgiveness is the greatest gift we can give to heal this world. And I think right now we know with the separation and the problems we just see all around, we need more healing in this minute, and we can do it right now. So if you're willing, just uncross yourselves. I'm just going to invite you in this moment to feel if you have any barbs in yourself, any little triggers of a lack of forgiveness, somebody who's really pissed you off, upset you, or a situation. My gosh, it could be a life experience. It could be a job you didn't get. It could be a job you did get. Maybe, who knows? It could be something in your life that just didn't go your way. And it's in you, and it's got that steel rod of emotional trigger right there. It's like so hard, and it's time to let it go. So as I said, the first thing we do is, just as the Lord's Prayer said, we open up to God, to joy, to love. We open up to something more. And we adjust our vision, our hearing, and our emotions to know there's always something more going on. So right here in this moment, if there's anything to forgive yourself for right now, I want you to just say inside of you, I know I did the best I could with the tools I had. I know I did the best I could. Well, you can repeat it now. I know I did the best I could. I know. With the tools I had. You got it. And just keep repeating that until you get it. Until you really get it. Because we always do the best we can with the tools we have until we know better. And then I want you, and this is your homework, kids. I'm going to say for the next, well, I'll see how long it takes, but it's not going to take a day. It's going to take more like a month, maybe. I want you to pray for somebody who hurt you. Because you know the way the law works, and the law supports forgiveness, the law of cause and effect. When we put a love out, we're going to get it back. Not always from the same way or the same person, but we'll get it back. The law of circulation, the law of abundance, the law of divine compensation. And when we heal, when we let that go, we open to the greater good that's waiting for us. So I want you to pray for that person, for their success, for their happiness, for their joy. Is that going to be hard?
Yes.
Good. It'll strengthen your love muscle. Because a lack of forgiveness is just misdirected love. That's all. The kingdom of God is love. Life is love. That's what we're here for. So I want you to just imagine what it would feel like in this moment. Just what would it feel like to let go of those chains of emotional hurts? What would it feel like right now to be free? What would it feel like to be a channel for God's grace, God's love, God's goodness, and God's joy? What would it feel like right now to spread your wings, that angelic essence in all of us, and to just be a being of light and love that's able to heal and forgive, not one that doesn't get hurt, because this is life, this is this world, but that we can forgive, that we can let go, that we can see the good for others. Our chains of those emotional attachments are gone. We let them go right now because we choose to let the light of love, the light of God, the light of joy and abundance to be in the flow of our life. We let God's good be ours now. season, to let the light of Spirit ignite our hearts, that we may live as a being of love, of forgiveness, and joy. I see it done. I know it's the truth for each of you. I pray for all of us, for our love, our abundance, and our healing, and I see it done. And so it is.